On today's show, who do Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving defend on the Celtics? And what questions do the Celtics have about the Mavs? We'll talk about that with John Karalis of Locked On Celtics on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
Mavericks, NBA champions. Bang! Bang! It's good! And the Mavericks have won the game!
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Loyalty never fades away.
And welcome, you're Locked On to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and your best friend covering the Mavs for the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for being part of the show, making Locked On Mavs your first listen today. We're the best way you can help us grow the show. Listen every day on any podcast platform. Leave a 5-star review, like the video on YouTube, and comment anything below. Then go to Locked On Celtics and just comment, Go Mavs. Just keep it simple. Go Mavs. Let's do that before the series actually starts. We'll do more creative things as the series goes on. We'll do that as the series goes on, but right now let's just start with a Go Mavs. Just a real simple, keep it basic. We want to be friends over there. I'm friends with John Karalis. John Karalis of Locked On Celtics is joining me today. We will talk all about the Maverick side of things. He's going to ask questions about the Mavs and things that he is curious about, and then we'll get into that. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/Locked On to get started. Let's hear my conversation with Locked On Celtics host John Karalis.
All right, it's my turn to host this thing. I'm John Karalis. You know me here on the Locked On Celtics feed. I got my guy, Nick Angstadt, host of the Locked On Mavs podcast. Nick, how you feeling about this series, my man?
I'm feeling okay. Better than I would have if you had asked me on March 1st when these teams last played.
If you missed the Monday show, it was Nick asking me questions about the Celtics. Now, the Tuesday show, double-barreled crossover, is me asking Nick questions about the Mavs. But first, I got to get to the Raccoon squad.
I thought for sure you were going to say, but first, Built Bar. That's what I thought you were going to say for sure.
I know. I miss Built Bars. Can you explain the Raccoon squad to my...
The long form story is if you go to Locked On Mavs on YouTube, go to the live videos and watch the one where it's Goodbye Isaac. Isaac was my former co-host on the show, Isaac Harris, and we tell the story in full. Basically, the story is Isaac, it's a very dumb story, but we love it, and it's become the name of what our listeners are called. That Isaac was at home, and all of a sudden he heard a scratching at his door, and he heard his door handle start shaking, and he started to freak out and was like, somebody's coming at my door. So he went to check on what it is. He opened it up, and there's like 10 raccoons out in his backyard. And they're like trying to get into his house. And he had this pear tree in his backyard. There are all these raccoons like diving on these pears and like trying to get them and all this. And a listener messaged us and said, all those raccoons gathering to the pear tree is just like what we do when you guys post a podcast. And so then they became the Raccoon Squad.
The Raccoon Squad. There it is. There's the explanation. That's why in the YouTube, there's all these raccoon emojis. So
yes, it is. There's
thank you.
Be careful with the raccoon emoji usage.
There's a lot of it. We have no name for Locked On Celtics listeners other than champs, because that's what they're going to be. Oh, okay. Oh. My two biggest questions of these finals: who does Luka Doncic defend, and who does Kyrie Irving defend? If you've got good answers for that, you got a good chance. But I don't know what those are.
It's tough. It's definitely tough because you can't make it the same way that it was against some of the other series where Luka's guarding Jaden McDaniels, Luka's guarding Lou Dort, Luka's guarding, Josh Giddey, and he's just kind of sagging off of some of those guys and allowed to be in passing lanes and help. And Luka and Kyrie have been the top players for the Mavs in deflections and all that kind of stuff. I think the answer is the Mavs will switch. The Mavs will allow the Celtics to move the ball around, and they have this rotating scheme defense where everybody kind of guards everybody at a certain point because you're rotating around. You're allowing the ball handler to get into the lane and kind of usher them into help. And then all of a sudden everybody behind you has to rotate and find exactly the person that they're supposed to be. And this defense has really worked because the Mavs are all in lockstep. They're all connected. And so I think the answer is not a very good one, but Luka will guard everybody at a certain point. Mm-hmm. He's guarded Kawhi, he's guarded SGA, he's guarded Jalen Williams, he's guarded Anthony Edwards. At some point during that, he has guarded all of them. It's just he doesn't have to do it every single possession, which I think is something that the Clippers tried to do, where they tried to just get Luka switched onto Harden every single time and just try and wear him down every single time. Luka was dealing with the knee a little bit worse than he is right now, and so that has been an issue for him. But it's a bad answer, but like he's going to guard everybody at a certain point, but he'll probably start on like Dereck White or Jrue Holiday.
And so I assume that Kyrie is on one of those guys too, right? Like there's no, when you're starting Tatum and Brown and those other, White and Holiday, and then presumably Porzingis, right? So it's pretty obvious, right? Like you can't start either of those two guys on Tatum or Brown, because that you're going to really, unless you're just giving up you're going to say, hey, we'll give up the mismatch and try to draw the Celtics into an isolation.
What I said on the first one, what the Mavs tried to do against the Thunder was they put PJ Washington on Chet, and then they put Lively or Gafford guarding a Lou Dort, a Josh Giddey, and Aaron Wiggins, somebody else, so that they can pull back and then they can defend the paint, and they can roam around and defend the paint. And then you just have to make sure that you help quick enough and recognize when they're going to go to that open guy in the corner. I don't think they can do that against the Celtics, but if they did try to do that, I think they'd probably put Luka on. They'd probably put Luka on Porzingis and have him try and guard him at least on the 3-point line. And then, I mean, is Porzingis going to back Luka all the way down in the paint? Like, I don't think so. So at least have him guard him on the 3-point line. Have Chet or not Chet, God, have Lively or Gafford guarding one of the other
trade before the finals. Yeah. Oh my God,
having them guard one of the other guards, and then have obviously PJ and Derrick Jones Jr. on the 2 J's. And so maybe they'll try that kind of version, but we haven't seen the same kind of defensive thing for the Mavs in 2 series in a row because teams are giving them different things.
Yeah, I just feel like no matter where you put, so I would say having him guard Porzingis to start makes sense, but you're just going to have Porzingis come up and set a pick for Tatum, right? Or Jaylen, right. and just try to work that switch. You said it though. It's not like the Mavs want to prevent teams from getting into the paint. It's like, no, please
they want them.
Get into the paint because we've got 2 guys that are going to block, like super athletic, big time, shot blocking. So you think you got a guy beat, and it's exactly where you want to be, where you want them to be.
But only if their guy is there. If he's out guarding KP on the 3-point line. This is one of the things when I was watching back the March 1st game, and the Mavs defense is completely different than it was then, but Lively is out there guarding Porzingis, and so he's then trying to like hedge into the paint a little bit to try and stop, whoever it is, PJ ushering Jayson Tatum into the lane, and like he gets behind the play, and all of a sudden there's a wide open 3 from somebody because of that. And the Mavs had the benefit of having Rudy Gobert and having Towns, who didn't really space the floor went that much when Gobert was out. Like they didn't really embrace the 5-out system like the Celtics obviously do. And so they had the center just waiting there every single possession over and over again. And then the scheme I talked about earlier that they did against OKC was why they had a center waiting there every single time. So the Mavs are going to have to figure this out because they have not faced a 5-out offense quite like the Celtics yet, because there isn't one.
They faced a good offense, but not a great defense. And then they face a great defense, but not a great offense. Now you're facing top 2, like both. Like,
well, the Thunder were both. The Thunder were top 5 in both.
Yeah. Okay. So, but the Celtics are the most well-rounded. Sure. They don't have the Josh Giddey weakness. They don't have that spot. And this is where I think this leaning on, hey, well, we just beat the OKC and you just beat Minnesota. And it's like, yeah, that's great. But you're not facing the same level of, okay, who do you attack defensively? Who's the weak point that you attack defensively? Who do you leave on defense to help? Like who are you most willing? Like, honestly, here's an honest question. If you're going to leave anybody to help, who are you leaving on the Boston offense?
Yeah. If you're leaving them for a 3, like there's not a great answer, but it's probably Dereck White.
Which,
right?
Yeah.
Like, because you're not leaving Jrue Holiday open in the corners. That's for sure. He's been insane from there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like you said, there's not a great answer. John, do you want me to just say the Celtics are good? I'll say that. Like,
say it.
Tell me we're good.
Feed my soul.
Tell me we're the best one. They have not faced an offense like this. They have not faced a 3-point shooting team like this. since they last played the Celtics in March, basically.
Yeah.
And yeah, the Thunder had Giddey and Dort and guys like that and other guys that you don't have to worry about driving even. Like, you're not worried about Aaron Wiggins driving or Isaiah Joe driving that much.
Yeah.
They faced the Timberwolves, where you're not worried about, well, they weren't worried about Jaden McDaniels, and then he hit a bunch of threes in the first couple of games, but you're not worried about Gobert doing anything besides maybe like catching the ball, but only if it's right in front of the rim and right like near his hands and like it's exactly right in the right place and he catches it and puts it down. So they're facing a team now that doesn't have the weaknesses to exploit defensively like they had in the past. And I think that's something the Mavs are going to have to figure out. The scheme's going to have to figure out, and they're really just going to have to be on top of it, because the scheme can cover a lot of things. Because if you can, usher to help, and then all of a sudden you've got everybody rotating. If you rotate right, you're at least going to make the Celtics take contested shots. You're just trying to avoid them taking these wide open shots over and over again.
Well, I want to get into the bigs and how they defend in this, because if people listen to the last episode, I'm really attacking them too with the Celtics offense. So let's see what your answers are. We'll talk about that in just a second. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book. And the reason why it's America's #1 sports book, it's because they're giving you, the new listener, the new customer, $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. You got the Celtics, 6.5-point favorites in game one. You want to put $5 on that? I don't know. Celtics by 7 in game one. I can see it. So if you do that and you bet it and you win it, that's $150 in bonus bets right there. You got the Celtics at minus 225 to win the series, Mavs at plus 188. So wherever you want to put it there, that's a bet that you can make with your bonus bets if you want. You just got to go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's how you make every playoff shot count. And one of the reasons why they're #1 is because they help you set your limits. You can use the tools that they have at your disposal to set your budget, so you can go have fun. You're just spending your disposable income. You're not going overboard. They want you to have some fun. I want you to have some fun at FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book. Oh, Nick sneaking in his Lockdown Mavs bump music.
You like that?
Yeah. All right. That's fine.
It's great. It's great, dude. Dude, it's great. It's great. It's great, broski. Bro, name it. It's great. It's great. It's great, bro. It's great. It's great. It's great.
Where's my...
It's my favorite Kyrie drop of all time.
Yeah, I don't have any of those things at my disposal. That's all right. That's all right. Just like the Mavs are going to have to figure out every little trick they can to have a shot in this series.
Yeah, we just got the shiny new toy. That's all.
That's right. So, okay. So if the Celtics are going to get into the paint, if the defense is designed to kind of get them there, I think, okay, fine. Gafford, Lively, step up. The Celtics are going to kick. They're going to get the ball out to the corners. They're going to kick the ball out. How do you rotate? How do those guys get from point A to point B? And if the Celtics if they do what I think they should do, and multiple attacks, drive, kick, swing, drive, kick, how do the Mavs bigs handle that?
Yeah, how they rotate is they run. They use their legs. They get from point A to point B, and they get there. But I think that it's going to be
fast enough. Can they do that multiple times to get to where they need to be?
That was my thing earlier, is that they have struggled to chase the ball. If you can move the ball quick enough, then the Mavs won't be able to chase it enough. And I think that it all depends on where the bigs are. I think this could be a very tough series for Daniel Gafford. He only played 6 minutes in the March 3rd game. Kid was still trying to figure out rotations and things like that. But I think this could be a very tough series for him to try and defend in space. Now, Lively has really stepped up defending in space. He would be like, they would leave him on an island against Anthony Edwards and he'd be okay. Like he would last at least for, 5 seconds, 10 seconds and not get completely destroyed at that point. So I think this could be a very big series for Lively. I'm interested to see if the Mavs ever go to the Maxi Kleber at the 5, because he has been a very good defensive big, switching and guarding in space and things like that. Okay at the rim, he can do some verticality things, but I think I'm interested to see if they go 5 out, because they tried that on March 1st, and then the Celtics just destroyed it because the Mavs have not found the offensive advantage when using that lineup. So the answer to your question about rotations is they just have to be connected and know where, and then they basically try and guess where someone is going to make a pass, and then have that guy, the guy that's not guarding anybody at that point, rotate over to who they think is going to get the ball next, who's going to be open. And they've been really interconnected, and the team has done well rotating in that way, but it is going to be a challenge. And the Celtics will make them a challenge because all their guys can pass and shoot and like go to the rim.
How do you feel about having a rookie be that important in the NBA Finals? He's done a great job so far. So I'm not saying like not ready for the moment, but like it's the NBA Finals and he's a rookie.
It's a very good question because he just keeps surprising everybody. When he got drafted, when the Mavs, tanked 2 games. Oh, 2 games. Tanked 2 games to keep their draft pick to draft Dereck Lively. Around the time when the Mavs were really like falling off of a cliff record-wise, Dereck Lively was ranked in like the 25, 20 in the NBA draft among guys. And then all of a sudden he started flying up draft boards when this video of him making a bunch of threes came out, and you're like, oh, all of a sudden this guy, he's a center that can shoot threes, and he hasn't done any of that. They've had 2 plays this whole year where Dereck Lively got a 3 off of like an inbounds pass or something. It was like a wide open corner 3. They both looked really bad. They have not tried it ever since. But his superpower this season has been learning and adapting so quickly from one game to another. There was a game he played first game of the season before the season even started. They go to Abu Dhabi, they play the Timberwolves and Rudy Gobert, and Gobert just jams right on his face, like this huge dunk right on him. And that never happened to him again because he learned from that moment and just took it, and he never played the same team the same way twice. And so him being able to adapt, being able to learn quickly, like he just takes things and immediately adapts them to his game. He's just been incredible. So I'm done like doubting Dereck Lively what he's going to be able to do, because he was the 3rd most important player in that Timberwolves series because of his ability to switch, his ability to defend the rim, his ability to be big, get rebounds. I mean, the Timberwolves, massive team. A thing we probably haven't talked about enough is like the rebounding advantage the Mavs will probably have, because the Timberwolves are a huge team and the Mavs still like got them in the rebounding game. And the other thing that he does really well is he passes out of the short roll. Lively comes up, sets a screen. If you double Luka, and if you throw 2 on the ball, then all of a sudden Lively is wide open, and he's been awesome, makes the decision right every single time, and he's done that since the very beginning of his rookie year. So it is a big task. It's the NBA Finals. It's another level, but Lively has been up to the challenge on every single thing.
This is where I think Lively, I think he's been great, right? So I'm not going to sit here and say he's not ready for the moment. Like I just said, he's been ready for every moment. So let's get that out there, Mavs fans. I'm acknowledging that Lively has done well.
Say he's good, John.
He is good. Tell me I'm good. The finals are different in that the cadence of everything is different, right? You're not practicing the same way you always practice. The level of media scrutiny is different. The pace of your day is different. Just everything is different about how everything is approached. And there's going to be the very first thing that a lot of people who haven't been in the finals, excuse me, are going to notice is going to be like, God damn, there's a lot of people around here at this practice that you now have. The media is available to watch 30 minutes of a team's practice, which never happens. And you're there at you're not practicing. Like when teams come in, I know because I went to Emerson College, the NBA will there's Emerson College gym is right next door to where most teams stay. So they'll either practice there or maybe the Equinox or something like that. But you're practicing on the floor. It's just different. So that's one thing. Secondly, everything is so magnified that the Celtics defense is so sophisticated that it's gonna make Lively make mistakes. They know he's going to pass out of the short roll. They are understanding of tendencies. So if he has a turnover or 2, how does he handle that? That's going to be the big question. So if he turns it over once or twice early, does he get tight? Does he crumble into a puddle and be like, oh God, I'm costing us a chance at the championship, and get into his own head? Or does he move on and say, no problem, I'll just get to the next one? And if he does get to the next one, great. But that's my biggest question with him. And he has been so important because if he can be played off the floor, Well, now the blitzing of Luka becomes a little bit more of an option, and you can try playing a little bit more aggressively on him because you're not going to get quite as burned behind you with passing and getting into rotation. So, like, if I'm pinning the one guy that I'm like, okay, if there's a guy outside of the Kyrie Luka pairing, if I can make Lively bad, then that can really mess up what the Mavs are trying to do.
Yeah, it does. And the Mavs lost their only game that they lost the Timberwolves was because Lively didn't play, and Kyrie had a terrible game in that one, and Luka didn't shoot the ball that well. But yeah, he's definitely a factor in that. And so, yeah, that's a question. I think, to me, I'm not worried about Lively not being able to play. Gafford not being able to play is definitely more of a question. He's not as good in space. He doesn't have the same kind of offensive tools that Lively does. But the other thing is, I'm worried about the Mavs, and Jason Kidd, relying on Maxi Kleber at the 5 and just going to that kind of version of the Mavericks. Because that version of the Mavericks doesn't have the same kind of advantages that they do playing with bigs, playing with the size, playing with, a center that can catch lobs, can get easy buckets just over and over again. Instead, you go back to what the Mavs were in 2022, where you just had to kick out and hit more threes than the other team, and they're not going to win that game against the Celtics. They're not going to spray to threes and hit more of those and then defend with their same rotating defense and all of a sudden hope to win. Like, they need that center advantage.
Let's get into my plan for defending Kyrie and Luka. We talked about that on yesterday's show. Let's I want to get your take on that. And I guess predictions. We could do predictions. It's about that time, right? Let's do predictions. We'll see how many games Nick thinks the Celtics are going to win in. Coming up next. Today's show is brought to you by Betterhelp. Now, my listeners know that I'm a big advocate of therapy. I've benefited from therapy myself. And I know the obstacles of therapy are finding a therapist and sticking with a therapist, because you got to find somebody that's nearby. And if that doesn't work out, then you're going to find somebody else who's nearby. It's very difficult. With Betterhelp, it's all done online. So it's designed to fit around your schedule. It's convenient, it's flexible, it's suited to your schedule. All you've got to do is fill out a brief questionnaire. You get matched with a licensed therapist. And because it's all online, you don't have to worry about it. It's a licensed therapist that you can talk to. And if it doesn't work, if it doesn't click, you switch. No additional charge, no nothing. That gets you to a person that you can talk to. And when you can talk to somebody, you can get stuff off of your chest, whether it's something lights, whether it's something you just need to get through because of maybe, say, work or relationship, or maybe something that's been sitting there for a lot longer. Once you feel comfortable with somebody, you can start really getting to the heart of it, and you can get comfortable with somebody at BetterHelp. All you got to do is go to betterhelp.com/LockedOnNBA. betterhelp.com/LockedOnNBA. You get 10% off your first month. BetterHelp, HELP, betterhelp.com/LockedOnNBA.
Luka Doncic, Luka Doncic, Luka Doncic, Luka Doncic, Luka Doncic.
You like this break bumper? You like this? You like this one?
That's a good one. And there's nothing I can do about this because Nick is technically, I guess, my boss. And so all of the things that are in my head that I want to say to him right now, I can't. So I'm just going to be nice.
Got all the bells and whistles over here.
All right. Let me get. I've now laid out on 2 podcasts how I want to defend Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, and it's very simple. The simple synopsis is, I'm doing much more one-on-one, straight up Luka. I don't care how many points he scores. Literally, do not care how many points he scores.
He scored 73 once. Do you know that?
That's fine. That's fine. I don't think he's going to score 73 again.
That'd be insane.
That would be crazy. That would be the one game that, all right, Dallas wins that game. But I really don't care that he's going to get shots. I just don't want him getting the assists. And Kyrie, I want him passing, getting off the ball as much as possible. So that's my plan. We talked a little bit about it yesterday, but what do you think about the concept of Kyrie being guarded one-on-one and trying to turn him into the scorer versus the do-it-all guy?
Yeah, I took the 24 hours since we recorded the last show, and I thought about it. I spent some time and thought about it. And I think that
I changed my shirt, of course.
Yeah,
I have two of these shirts.
Both wearing. We've been working all night though. That's why we're wearing the same.
That's right.
Just hard at work. I think with Luka, the problem with that is if you come up and set a screen for him, Luka is the best in the NBA at just navigating pick and rolls, but also just getting a defender on his hip over and over again. And I wonder if that all of a sudden happens. If you try to play the one-on-one game against him, if he just has him on his hip a defender on his hip, if it's Jaylen Brown or if it's Jrue Holiday over and over and over again, that's what happened with the Timberwolves. And the Timberwolves just had Jaden McDaniels. Jaden McDaniels just lived on Luka's hip, just the whole series over and over again. And I think that's a recipe for disaster. And like you said earlier, I said that I think it's a fine plan, but like they won't be able to do the same thing over and over and over again defensively against Luka. They'll have to throw different coverages. The Timberwolves did the same thing. They tried different things and all that. But I'm curious if they try the one-on-one approach, the screen comes up and is set. Luka just has the defender on his hip over and over again. He's going to win that. Like that's what he's going to win. And he's really good at beating defenders when he's got you in that position.
Yeah, it's going to take a lot to defend Luka. And as I've said, it's not about stopping Luka. And Joe Mazzulla said this. You're not stopping him. You're not stopping Kyrie. You just got to defend them at a high level. And can you take away a couple of possessions? Can you make two possessions that would have gone their way go Boston's way? And that's going to be the challenge. And to do that, as much as I say, you got to guard him straight up, you're going to do that a few possessions, but also sometimes you're going to switch. Sometimes you're going to veer, which is basically a late switch. Sometimes you're going to blitz. Sometimes you're not going to blitz. Sometimes you're going to be up to touch. And you just got to make it so when you do it, he doesn't see it coming and you've got like an answer behind him. That's the whole thing. And keeping him off balance if you can.
Yeah. The thing about Kyrie is that's also similar to what the Thunder tried to do against him is they sent some extra help. They blitzed. I know on your show, when you talked about this plan in full, you talked about sending multiple coverages to Kyrie and making him kind of like playing against Kyrie's own, what's the word? Like ego in a way where he's like, all right, I'm going to get my quote unquote revenge, even though you don't think it's a revenge game. Like I'm going to get my revenge on Boston and like try and go off myself. The Thunder really sent multiple bodies to Kyrie anytime he had the ball. And he had multiple games where he had 11 assists, 9 assists, things like that, multiple like double-digit assist games. I think he can do that. It's not the same level as what Luka can do, but I think that Kyrie has become a willing passer and something that, far be it from me on the Locked On Celtics feed to say positive things about Kyrie. So sorry, Celtics fans, but I'm going to do it.
It's going to come with a trigger warning and a parental explicit.
Yeah, right. Skip like 50 seconds. Kyrie last year got brought into the Mavericks in the trade, and the Mavs missed the entire postseason. All 10, there's 10 teams that make it, and they missed the entire thing. It was an embarrassment. It was an abject disaster for the Mavericks. Top 5 player plus Kyrie at the end, and they couldn't come up with wins. They were taking on water and couldn't win. He goes back to his house, and he starts watching the playoffs, and he takes notes. He said he sat there and took notes on leadership and the leaders of the teams that were left in the playoffs, to watch the players out there that were leading their teams and try to take notes on what he could do to be better, what he could do to take the next step. I think he matured a lot from his time in Brooklyn to now where he's at right now with the Mavericks. And I think that he also looked at everybody and said, how can I do what this team needs? And he has specifically said to do whatever this team needs is what I'm about. That's what I want to. It's what I want to be. And so he has done that. There are games when he doesn't he takes 4 shots until the fourth quarter, and then he goes off on a run. There are games like against the Thunder, he scores 9 points, 12 points. They win the game because he has 11 assists or something like that. There are games when he has 2 huge rebounds in traffic or something like that. He has really stepped up. And I think that he's not as one-dimensional as he used to be. And I think that's something that has really helped the Mavericks. It's the reason why they're where they are right now. And I think that if they're going to try that defense against Kyrie, he is prepared to face that this time, where maybe he wasn't even last year or earlier in his career.
So my magic numbers, 110 points for the Boston Celtics. Can you get to 110 or more? And can you hold the Mavs to under 110? That's, if the Mavs are scoring over 110, you got a problem. I know 100 seems like the magic number, but with the offenses in today's NBA, and maybe playoff defense will depress these numbers again. But if I think the Celtics can,
Or how many games is Tony Brothers refereeing?
Don't even.
Do the Celtics have a referee that's like the one they hate?
Oh yeah, Tony Brothers is definitely
he's
one.
Okay.
What's his? Oh, there's a couple. The same ones. It's all the same ones, and this is why I dismiss all of it. Scott Foster, Tony Brothers,
Goebel.
No, Goebel. People don't like Zach Zarba for some reason.
He's been fun.
I don't know. It's the same cast of characters. Everybody hates the refs, but
right.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the actual record or whatever. People just.
It only matters if the Mavs lose. That's the only.
That's right. So those are my magic numbers. I feel like the Celtics can win if they hold, because they'll score more than 110. If you can hold the Mavs to less than 110, I think you got it. All right. Prediction time. Ready?
I don't think I am, but I've been chewing on it for a little while.
Okay. So here's my one question for you. When we open up the FanDuel Sportsbook app before every one of these games, who will be favored?
I think that, well, the Celtics are favored right now. I know that opening it up. So
but like it's for each game, each individual game.
It's Celtics 6.5 for game 1, which is a big line. Mavs were only 1.5 point favorites in game 5 against the Timberwolves, and they were.
It's a big line for an NBA Finals. Game 1, 6.5 is a big line.
6.5 is a lot. I think the Celtics will continue to be the favorites unless the Mavs go up like 2-0, 3-0, something like that. But even then, if the Mavs were up 3-0 against Timberwolves, and Timberwolves were the favorite in game 4 because it's just so hard to sweep a team. So especially if that team has all their players, I know that's something that the Celtics haven't done in a long time, is face a team that has all their players. So I know that that's something different you're gonna have to face now.
So my point here is the Celtics will be the favorites.
Probably
be the favorites. Probably. You open up that FanDuel Sportsbook app. Game 2, Celtics will be minus something. Game 3 in Dallas, it's not going to flip. It's not going to flip to Dallas. Boston's going to walk in there, and unless something changes lineup-wise, and not Porzingis, unless something else changes lineup-wise.
He doesn't change anything.
It's the Celtics will still be favored. So I'm looking at this from a perspective of the Celtics are still going to be favored in every one of these games. So if things go the way the sports books think, this could be a Boston.
Say it, John. Say it with your chest.
But it won't be.
Okay. 64-win team. Mavs have never beat a 64-win team in the playoffs before, have they?
I'm giving Luka
very famous game 7
for taking. I'm going to say Celtics in 6.
Okay.
Because I think Luka's magic is going to win them a couple of games. But I think the Celtics are so well-rounded on both ends of the floor that I think both teams, if both teams play their best, Boston is still better. And which is not, I'm not going out on a limb by saying that, but I think Boston is still better at places where the Mavs are. It's going to be hard for them. There are weaknesses that Boston can exploit. And I don't see those same weaknesses on the other side. So I think Boston's going to win the first 2. I think it's going to be, they might make it interesting, and Dallas could win a game 5 in Boston, and then Boston has to go back and win it in 6. But I'm going to say Celtics in 6.
Okay. Glad to see that there's no objectivity and no.
I know.
My co-host on game nights for Locked On Mavs, his name is slightly biased, and so I'm gonna be maybe even more biased. If the Mavs are gonna win this series, the Mavs will have to come out of the gate swinging. They'll have to take advantage of all this talk. We didn't even do this conversation because I didn't want to have it. The Celtics haven't been tested. Like we haven't done that. Yeah. But I think there is something too. They haven't really played like intense playoff basketball yet. And if they have, it's because of their own volition, their own letting themselves get played into some of these games when they've had leads or things like that. Or letting the Pacers get away with a game that they have no business getting away with, and then coming up and winning it in the end. And so if the Mavs are going to do that, they'll have to take advantage of the Celtics early, I think. I'll go Mavs in 6 as well because of that. If it goes 7, I think the Mavs can still win too, because anything can happen in a game 7. But a long series, I don't think favors the Mavericks necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
Although anything can happen in the finals, but I'll go Mavs in 6 as well.
I'm actually like a game 7. It's
Luka versus Tatum.
I have full confidence in the Celtics, and I've said from the beginning of the season, this is the year. Not it could be. I said this is the year. But I will say, Luka doesn't scare me as much.
Be careful with what you're about to say, John.
No, the most scared I would be of Luka is in a game 7. That's what it like. Yeah. I am less afraid of Luka in games 1 through 6. Game 7, I'm just like, oh crap. Okay, here we go. Because he is capable of just pulling stuff out of nowhere. And you're like, oh man, he hit that. He made that play. And he's such a manipulator of defenses that in a game 7, I just feel like he's going to have something in his pocket. It's going to be tied with a minute to go. And he's going to be like, oh, remember that play that we ran, 2 minutes into the game? We're going to do it again, except I'm going to do two things different. And you're going to be expecting the other stuff. And here's my bucket, So I hope it's Celtics in 6 because I still think the Celtics would win a game 7, but I would be very afraid of that.
I wanted to pick Mavs in 7, but then I started thinking, man, if the Mavs are going to win this year, they have to come out of the gates and win a couple early because they have to. I think they have to catch the Celtics off guard in the intensity of it, in Luka and Kyrie going off, and the quieting the crowd, whatever they end up doing. And so I think the Mavs will have to win a little earlier. If
Boston goes up 2-0, it's going to just be tough to win. 4 out of 5. Not impossible. Teams have done it. Teams have definitely done it. And again, Luka is capable of doing it, but you definitely got to take one in Boston. But the Celtics are perfect on the road. So, they're not afraid of going on the road and playing.
Yeah, so. John, because they haven't played any good teams.
Such disrespect. For
the Pacers with no Halliburton, for the Cavs with Donovan Mitchell sideline and Jared Allen out, and no Jimmy Butler Heat. That team doesn't make the play in the West.
Oh no, they were terrible. They were terrible. But Boston, did what they're supposed to do. Anyway, all right.
They're there. They're here. They took advantage of it.
That's right. All right, we're here and we're gone. That's it. Double barrel crossover is done. So thanks for everybody listening on both the Locked On Mavs, Locked On Celtics feeds. Find those podcasts wherever you get your podcasts. Watch them on YouTube. Get into the comment section on YouTube and listen to both because you're going to want both sides of the story. And would love it if you shared the podcasts. Tell everybody you should be listening to and watching Locked On Celtics and Locked On Mavs as part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
Boom.